Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Policybazaar Live, where we answer all your insurance and finance related queries. Today, we'll be exploring the world of health insurance. The reality is that no one is ever immune to the possibility of a medical emergency, regardless of their age or current health status. If you are uninsured, the financial burden of a situation like this can further add to your troubles. The situation can be daunting, costing you not just money but mental peace and security. Fortunately, having a health insurance takes care of this, providing you with the coverage you need to recover your health without worrying about the cost. But how do you go about getting health insurance and what's the best one for you? These are some of the questions that we will tackle in today's live session. And joining us for the same is Toshita Chauhan, who has over 15 years of experience in the insurance industry and knows the UAE insurance ecosystem extremely well. She is currently heading health insurance for Policybazaar.ae. Hi Toshita, welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Hi, Aditi. I'm good, thank you.
So, Toshita, without further ado, let's begin. For the audience who's watching, we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. So please make sure you leave yours in the YouTube chat. Toshita, to begin with, from what I understand, everybody in the UAE needs health insurance, right? Can you elaborate a little more on this particular concept and why is it mandatory itself?
Right. So I'd start with saying that majority of the UAE, the people who live here in the UAE are expats and come in from different countries all across the world. As per the regulation, UAE in certain emirates, which are cities in UAE, for example, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, it is mandatory to have health insurance. In emirates which are in the north part of UAE, which includes Sharjah, Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah. At the moment, it is not mandatory for you to have health insurance. However, the regulation is due to come very soon and it will be made mandatory. But what we advise all our customers and our well wishers is basically everyone should have health insurance in the UAE because the bills can pile up, right? It's not for example, I'm from India, and in India, typically, your average cost of a consultation, etc., in UAE, that would typically be at least 4 to 5 times of what we would pay back in our home countries. So our advice to everyone would be that even if it's not mandated, which in the next 3 to 6 months we will not have that option because Northern Emirates will also have mandatory health insurance. So the entire country, as regulation, as a rule and law, will have to have health insurance.
What happens if a person is not covered by health insurance in the UAE?
So two things, right? If typically in the Emirates where health insurance is mandatory, they will not renew your visa if you don't have a valid health insurance policy. For people, let's say I don't have health insurance, the worst thing that'll happen is basically you will, if you in case of any unfortunate medical claim or sickness, you will have to pay that out of your own pocket. And that could either be in hundreds of dirhams or millions of dirhams, depending on how bad or critical the illness is.
All right, okay. Moving on, is health insurance different from term insurance? And if so, how is that the case?
Absolutely. So, term insurance is basically life insurance and which covers your family in case of your unfortunate death, right? You basically keep paying for your term insurance premium for the certain number of years that you've chosen the plan for, and then your family would get a payout if you were to die. To put in layman language. However, health insurance is basically sort of a financial compensation for your health slash medical bills in case there is any medical condition that you develop, or you're critically ill, or in any case you need to use a medical facility. Health insurance basically helps you not pay out of your own pocket, whereas term insurance will only be applicable in case at the time of your death.
Understood. And for residents there who are also working there, is health insurance covered as a part of the company that they're working with? Is that something that a benefit that's provided, or is it something that everybody has to take personally?
Right. So, for example, in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, it's mandated that if you're working for a company, the employer has to provide health insurance. In Dubai, sorry, in Abu Dhabi, it would be for the employee and the dependents as well. So, if I'm there and my wife and kids are dependent on me, the employer would also provide for health insurance for those. In Dubai, it's mandated that an employer provides for the employee, the dependents of the employee. In my For example, if there's a husband who's working, the company will pay for his insurance, but his dependents, which could be his wife and kids or his parents, he has to purchase their own insurance plan himself.
Understood. So in the case where people have to purchase their own insurance plan, what how do they select their ideal plan, right? From what I understand, there are several, like the basic visa plan, an enhanced coverage plan, or plans with global
Right.
coverage. How do you come about understanding which is the best one for you?
Right. So it depends on sort of multiple factors, right? So in UAE, you could buy a basic plan which could cover you for as low as sum insured of 150,000 dirhams. It would typically have like a waiting period for any pre-existing conditions, a longer waiting period which could lead up to 6 months. The limits of certain conditions, for example, if you were to be pregnant, they would be smaller of how much you can claim. The network of hospitals and clinics would be restricted, so you wouldn't be sort of allowed to visit the specialist directly. You will have to go to a GP, and if the GP thinks that you have a condition which requires specialist attention, then you would be referred to that. Whereas in enhanced plans or the more comprehensive detailed plans, the sum insured or the limit that your medical insurance provides you, which is up to how much you can spend and how much you can claim, is much higher. The network of hospitals and clinics is much larger. You have access to specialists whenever you want. You don't have to necessarily go to a GP. Certain conditions are covered. If you were to declare that, I have, let's say, a pre-existing condition like I'm already pregnant, or I have hypertension, or I have diabetes, at that time the insurer will price a premium for you, and you can enjoy that policy, and those conditions will be covered from day one. So this would typically be the difference between the basic and the enhanced plans. Then you also have plans sort of with global coverage, that I may not just want treatment in the UAE, and I may want to go back to my home country and also get a treatment there. So those plans are for expats who are looking for not just a UAE or a GCC kind of a regional cover.
Understood. You spoke about two concepts here. One is the sum insured under your health insurance plan, and the other is waiting period. So,
Right.
what exactly is the sum insured when it comes to health insurance specifically? And as for the waiting period, are there certain health conditions that require you to wait for longer, or there are certain health conditions where you don't have to wait at all? Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So I'll take the first part first. You asked about sum insured. What is that? So every health insurance policy comes with a limit of how much you can claim in a year. How many worth of dirhams can you claim in a year, right? And typically for like a basic plan, that would be 150,000 dirhams. So to give you perspective, if you were to have a maternity claim and you were pregnant, a cesarean could cost you, a treatment could cost you up to 25,000 dirhams, right? So that's basically that 150,000 of your annual limit. You've already used 25,000. Then you have limit left for any other unfortunate conditions or um, diseases that you may develop in due course of the year. For comprehensive and enhanced plans, the limit could be above 150,000, which could be about half a million dirhams, 1 million dirhams, etc. So this just equates to how much of it you can claim in a year,
Okay.
right? And
And so if your medical bill is more than what, like more than the limit, then you have to pay out of pocket, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Right. The second question you asked me was about the waiting period. So,
Yeah.
the waiting period is typically applicable by the UAE insurers. On the basic plan, the waiting period would typically be up to 6 months. So,
For
um,
everything, for all
For all
or
conditions,
choose all?
unless I declare something and I have a certificate of continuity that, hey, I
Okay.
was previously already insured and I have this. So in this case, we basically guide our customers to continue with the same insurance company who already is aware of their past history. So the insurer would
Okay.
somewhat build this, increase in the claim amount that the person may have in the premium, the renewal premium. And for enhanced plans, the waiting period could be up to 45 days or it could be zero. So if today I want to buy an enhanced plan or a comprehensive plan, and if I'm pregnant, I will basically if I declare at the time of buying the insurance, you typically have to fill out a medical application form, which gives details about your health and your medical conditions, pre existing, anything in the past that you've had.
Okay.
If I declare at that time that I'm currently pregnant or I'm planning for pregnancy, etc., they will cover it. If I declare that, hey, I already have hypertension, I'm taking medicines for diabetes, the insurer may ask you for further reports to evaluate, and they will, price your risk, and they will give you a premium which includes the treatment for all this. So we always advise our customers that if you have any pre-existing condition, please declare it, because hiding it will only lead to complications further where your claims will get
Further.
denied. There's a chance that your policy could get suspended because the insurer will come back to you and say, hey, you had this condition and you never declared it. So sorry, you're not covered.
Understood. Understood. Okay. Moving on. What is there something called a personal health insurance and a group health insurance, and what is the difference between the both of those?
Sure. So you have individual health insurance or personal health insurance and group health insurance. So group health insurance, basically, as the name suggests, would typically consist of a group of people. And this is also known as corporate insurance, which your employer buys for you. For example, so a company says, hey, you know what, I have 50 employees or 100 employees, and I want to plan for these people. So the whole the kind of product, the pricing, and everything works differently because you are pricing the risk. The insurer is not pricing the risk for an individual; it's pricing for the entire group. And
Hmm.
in this case, the individual sort of never no, does not pay for it. The company pays for it for group health
Okay.
insurance, right? And then there is individual health insurance. So I could have a group health insurance cover, which I have from my company, and if I want individual health insurance, I'll have to go and buy that for myself.
Okay. So a person cannot decide themselves whether they want to shift from an individual to a group health insurance, from a personal to a group one, right?
So so so,
That's
so
what the
they
company does for them.
Yeah, so the company will sort of give you two options, right? That they will
Okay.
either already have a plan in place where they sort of, push you in and add you in, or they say, hey, you know what, why don't you buy insurance for yourself, because we're only five people, and it doesn't make sense for us to make a group plan. You can buy individual health insurance for yourself, and some companies reimburse that amount up to a certain limit. Or my company would say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to give you this plan which covers XYZ, and I think that no, I want a better plan, and then I may
Hmm.
be able to upgrade that, to and take my own personal insurance.
Okay. And when we also spoke about like the family health insurance plans, right? So if I'm, is it possible one to take a combined insurance plan for the entire family, like a health
Yeah,
insurance
yeah,
plan? And
yeah.
is that a part of like the group insurance, health
So
insurance
group insurance
package?
may not necessarily cover it. It would depend on the employer if he wants to add in your dependents and your family.
Okay. Hmm.
Typically in Abu Dhabi Emirate, that is the case because that's a regulation. But in Dubai, the employer is not obliged to do it. Obviously, there are some employers who do it, and it's great. But most of them would, want you to cover your dependents yourself and buy the plan. So there are insurance companies who have launched plans which are called family care plans, which typically would, price the risk for the entire family, and it could work out cheaper compared to buying individual plan and policies for your wife or kids and yourself. So you could sort of buy a family care plan which covers all three of you.
Understood. Okay. Is there ever a situation where you might not get health insurance after applying for it?
No, there won't be any situation where if your documents are correct. For example, as per the regulation. Again, I keep referring to the regulation because this country is amazing and very strict, and
Yeah.
adhering to that. If you are a UAE resident, you have a valid UAE visa, whether that's a visa stamped on your passport or an e-visa, then an insurer really cannot decline to give you coverage. They will price
Okay.
it for you. So even if I have certain pre-existing conditions which are determining that 100% I'm going to claim so much. For example, I'm a cancer survivor, or I have hypertension, I have diabetes. I know that my this customer will claim so much. So there's always a premium priced for that risk, but there won't be any full denial as such. There could be certain conditions which may not be covered, but they're not necessarily medical in nature, like cosmetic surgery, for example, is not covered in health
Is not
insurance,
covered.
right? Certain dental treatments are not covered, like braces, etc. Anything that's
Got it.
emergency will be covered. So if I were to break my tooth in an accident, obviously that's covered.
All right. Uh, so I came across this term called anti-selection. What is that exactly? I thought it was not getting health insurance, but I would love for you to elaborate on it.
Sure. See, anti selection is basically when the insurer feels that you are taking out an insurance policy because you are at a higher risk than what the insurance company would price it at. So, typically, let's say I have a family and I have uh, not insured myself, but I'm insuring my wife, right? And
Hmm.
not, I'm not insuring my kid. So the insurer suddenly thinks, hey, what is the need that you're not spending for yourself but you're spending for your wife's insurance? Does she have certain conditions, or you already are prepared to claim something in your head, right? So
Hmm.
that's typically what it is, wherein insurance company feels that there's a higher health risk than what is typically declared in the contract.
Okay. Okay. So talking about health risks, let's say you know, uh, I'm sorry, I tell the insurer that I have this problem, or I have hypertension or BP, whatever it is. What happens? Like, how is my health insurance changing when I declare something like this?
Right. So your basic health insurance policy framework, table of benefits remains the same, right? With
Hmm.
declaring or without declaring. The difference is whether that is covered or not. So
Okay.
if today I declare that, hey, I have diabetes and hypertension, the insurer knows about the history, and they've already priced that premium for me, considering what I have as my medical
Yeah.
history tomorrow. And they know that, oh, hey, on the first day itself I could go and make a claim for a insulin injection, for example. Whereas if I have diabetes and I don't declare it, the insurer has not priced that risk for you, and they
Hmm.
assume that you're a healthy, fully healthy person who is not, there's no intention to claim. And
Hmm.
diabetes is also not something that you develop in like a month, right? It
Yeah.
sort of comes over time
Yeah.
for it to become at a claim level process. So the fundamental difference is whether that condition will be covered or will be a decline. And the fact that you are taking medical insurance so that you don't have to pay out of your pocket for the medical bills, then it defeats the purpose if you're not declaring and you're not, getting the coverage for the conditions that you already have.
Got it. So we already talked about a little bit of what all is covered and what all, like cosmetic surgery is something that's not covered. Is there anything else that people need to be aware of when it comes to coverage? Like, are there any specific things that are included or not included as a part of health insurance in general in the UAE?
So the UAE has made it very simple in terms of coverage, right? Anything emergency is definitely covered. There's no denial there. Anything which you've declared is covered. Most of the cosmetic procedures are not covered. LASIK eye treatment is not covered, for example. There is also, they provide you coverage in policies for physiotherapy, for any alternate medicine treatment. Now there are plans which provide you, coverage for psychiatric medicine treatment, or psychological therapy plans, etc. So those options are also available.
Okay. Now coming to the cover, we spoke about how like the basic plans have a cover of about 150,000 dirhams, and like as you go more expensive, the cover also increases.
Right.
um, is the coverage amount something that a person can calculate or compute based on his individual requirement? Is that something that they should factor in while they are choosing the health insurance that they're going for?
Absolutely. Typically what we suggest is most of the basic plans are, as the name suggests, right? They are fairly basic. The absolute basic amount of health insurance health facility that you would use in this country. It does not take into account that you may develop any critical illness, because that critical illness treatment amount for through the course of the year will definitely go above 150,000 dirhams, and then you're not left with anything else to use it for. So we typically advise customers, at least above certain age groups, to have the plan of at least half a million dirhams. People obviously who are, and there's not a lot of difference in the premiums, to be very honest. Basic plan, of course, it's a separate thing, because the government here in this country has made it very affordable, so that even the people who earn below a certain salary range can afford it, and they don't feel like it's completely unavoidable. The companies who employ certain blue collared workers in large volumes are able to afford those plans. So the insurance authority slash health authority in this country has mandated a certain basic price, that this is what this plan will get sold at, and it's kind of discounted, with the kind of benefit that it comes with. Whereas for most of our customers, they come here to buy the enhanced plans, because they realize the importance of having a higher sum insured. And again, it's not just about the higher sum insured in the comprehensive plans, right? The other benefits, that you can have access to a much larger network of hospitals, much larger network of clinics, and more or less people know which hospital or clinic they want to go to for their, sort of monthly or quarterly visits.
Yeah, yeah, true. Um, okay. So, are there any key things or key pointers that you would suggest someone keep in mind before they get a health insurance in the UAE?
Right. So I mean, again, we start with, three, four things. That first, assess the regulation. What does the regulation say, depending on which emirate you reside in, or which emirate has sponsored your visa, like Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, etc. Check what are the kind of documents are required, right? Because some people come here on a tourist visa and they think they can buy health insurance, which is not correct. For you to buy health insurance here in the UAE, you have to have a valid UAE residency, and you have to be a UAE resident or a UAE national, of course. What is the kind of product you are buying, right? And I think that's really where Policy Bazaar sort of comes into the picture, because there are so many plans out there in the market, and for someone who does not understand insurance, it can be very confusing to select which is the most appropriate plan for myself and my family. And because health insurance is so critical, it affects, it literally affects your life,
Yeah.
right? It could wipe out your life savings, if you didn't have that. So I think we're experts in sort of suggesting which plan, basis of the customer's needs, requirements, typically which plan is the best for them or more suited. And I would also say you got to be careful of where you're buying this health insurance from, right? Because let's say distributors like Policy Bazaar, we're very transparent. We have all the information on the website. We have thousands of people coming to our website on a monthly basis, just doing the research. They may buy from us, they may not buy from us, but they do their research on our website. And as you can see, we have more than 15 providers listed on our website, so you can compare, choose. Our pricing is very transparent, it's all out there. We're not taking extra 5% or 10%. There are some distributors who could do that, and you would never know that you've been charged extra, or you've been sold a policy that probably you will not be able to use. We will advise you, especially on the declaration of your pre-existing conditions, declaration for females. If you're planning to have a baby, to declare that, so that we don't want that when you are pregnant, the insurer declines your claim, and at that time, unfortunately, you don't get a refund on your policy, so the money you've paid is gone. So
Okay,
yeah, I
okay.
would say all these things is what you should consider.
Yeah, so important, very important points to keep in mind. You were just talking about claims, right? So once somebody is in the hospital or they do want to claim, their health insurance, what does that process look like?
Right. So it's fairly easy, fairly straightforward. Typically, when you buy a health insurance policy in the UAE, we have something called an Emirates ID, which is our national ID card issued by the government of UAE. We were taking those details from you at the time of policy issuance. If you are a new entrant into the country and you don't have your Emirates ID yet, you just have your e-visa copy. We request you to submit your Emirates ID to us once you have it. What that typically helps us, it helps us link your policy, health insurance policy, to your Emirates ID. Some of the insurance companies still share a digital copy of an e-card, which is your health insurance card. When you have to claim, you go into the network hospital and clinic, which is as part of your policy. You can It's very easy to check which hospital and clinic is included or not included. They're all on our website. We would give you sort of a link where you can check real time. You can also have the TPA, which is a third party administrator in this country, like a Mednet or a Nextcare or a NAS, for example, and check it on their apps. You would go to the hospital or clinic, and at the reception you would just show them your Emirates ID or your health insurance e-card. Their systems are already linked with the TPA system, and they would be able to recognize which policy you have, etc. It's active, it's expired. They will then continue with, what type of co-payment you have to give to avail the service. And co-payment is basically a share of service fee that the customer or insured has to pay. That could be a percentage of the total bill, or that could be like a flat fee capped at a certain amount, right? So if I'm going to visit an outpatient doctor, I could be like, I have to pay 20% of his consultant charges from my pocket, rest the insurance company will cover, or I have to just pay 50 dirhams. It depends on, for example, which kind of plan you bought.
Okay.
They would then register your claim and everything, and most of them get processed instantly or within the next 1 hour. If there is any denial of claim, then there are these people like Policy Bazaar who are there to help you. Obviously, if you are our customer, you would come back to us saying, hey, this claim is denied. We would investigate this for you. Denial would typically come for two reasons. One is that as part of your policy, this um, condition or this treatment that you are claiming for is not covered and is an exclusion. Or it would come as something that was declared by the doctor that you was consulting, that he said that it was a pre-existing, that this customer already had symptoms since last year or before the time they took the policy.
Okay. You touched upon two terms. One was TPA, and I think you talked about network administrators. Could you elaborate on what those are and what is their role in processing a claim?
Sure. So you have Policy Bazaar, who's an aggregator, distributor, and we help you to buy, make an informed decision and buy health insurance policies from us, and we sell on behalf of the insurance companies. Then you have an insurance company who is basically underwriting your risk, pricing a premium for you basis what type of customer and profile you are. And then you have the third party administrator, which is called a TPA. And any of the UAE residents, if you're joining, you would sort of remember names like Mednet, Nextcare, NAS, etc. And these, as the name suggests, third party administrators, they help the insurance company manage the network of hospitals and clinics where the customer can go and make cashless claims, right? Because anything outside of the network and network hospital and clinic list may be covered, but you will have to pay cash there and get it reimbursed later on. And
Okay.
these TPAs also facilitate claim management for insurance companies and customers.
Okay. Okay. All right, moving on. What happens if your current policy is expired and what is the right time to renew the policy?
Right. So your policy is typically issued in the UAE for a period of 12 months, right? The insurance companies give you a grace period of another 30 days. to renew within that time. However, we don't advise that. We advise customers to renew within the 12 months, at least, just before 2 weeks remaining to the 12 months, if they are available in the country and if they can do that practically. 13th month is just a grace period. It may not, cover any of the new conditions, for example, that you've developed in the 13th month. So that's just like sort of a cover which they just facilitate, saying that, hey, you couldn't buy because of some reason, you weren't available in the country, etc. So we've given you this. um, and sorry, Aditi, could you repeat the question? I've just lost track.
Sorry, no worries. I was just asking what happens if your current policy is expired and what is the right time to renew. So I think you answered that.
Yeah. And what,
Yeah.
what happens if the policy is expired and you don't renew, right? That's also very
Yeah.
important. So, see, as a customer, you've been with an insurance company for, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, etc., right? You're paying certain premiums and you may claim or you may not claim. You've built up your profile with them. So, if you don't renew, you got to start again from scratch, because if you don't renew, there's no continuity of insurance, right? And if there is a gap of 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, the insurance company has no idea what kind of conditions, what kind of claims you've made, on your own, etc. So you would sort of, if you buy a basic plan, you would again come into the 6 month waiting period. If you buy an enhanced or comprehensive plan, you would have a waiting period of up to 45 days, which could apply.
Okay. You spoke about continuity right now.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that?
So continuity is basically that I am able to prove that I was already covered in an insurance plan previously. And the insurance companies here, it's sort of a defined risk, right? That, hey, if I am covered in an insurance plan up until yesterday, I am not looking to make an immediate claim because I had my insurance policy. I may look to change my provider or change my TP or change the network because I'm looking for a better coverage, or a different hospital which my, let's say, insurer doesn't cover in their network or the plan anymore. But typically, you wouldn't be a risk who the insurer thinks is going to claim tomorrow, because for people who are uninsured, you don't know what are the kind of conditions they may come up with.
Understood. So we've already covered the benefits of renewing your health insurance policy quickly, right? Because when you don't have to wait, you don't have to be in the waiting period again, and your insurance continues to have the benefits that you were having with the previous health insurance. Okay, I think we can now move on to the audience questions. Just give me a second so that I can open those up. Nivid from YouTube is asking, hello ma'am, could you please share some insights about the key difference in features between government, public service unit health insurance and private insurance?
Right. So in the, I'm not sure with which context you're asking me in, like, but I'll just answer to the best of my knowledge within the UAE context, right? So here, insurance is all private. Like, there is no government insurance which is given to UAE residents, which are expats. There is a government insurance, health insurance plan, which is provided to the UAE nationals by the government. If that answers your questions.
Okay, I think it does. So essentially, anybody who's come from outside and is a resident here will have to go through a private insurance provider, and only the
Yeah,
nationals get.
anyone who is not a UAE passport holder slash UAE national, uh, is will have to go through the private insurance.
Okay. We have another question from Abhimanyu Chaturvedi. He asks, do I need health insurance if I have taken critical illness cover with term insurance?
Yes, you do. So as I mentioned, right, term insurance is basically, it's the other extreme. So it does not pay for, let's say I were to have a influenza, right? As simple as something influenza, I have a really bad cough and cold. That term insurance policy with a critical illness rider is not going to cover that for you. You may still, if you want to visit a doctor here in the UAE, you will still have to pay consultation charges. You may have to pay for the medicines, etc. So all that, as simple as that, obviously, and as critical as something like um, appendix removal, right? Appendicitis, which is not very critical, but it will still cost you, if you were to pay that out of your own pocket, it will still cost you about 10,000 dirhams. So your term policy will not cover you for all those.
I hope that answers your question, Abhimanyu. Moving on to another one by Sneha Joshi. She asks, I'm in my 40s. Wouldn't health insurance be very costly for me?
Hi, Sneha. Again, it depends, right? People are in their 40s and they are super healthy. Their BMI range is absolutely normal. They're not overweight. They don't have any pre-existing conditions. So you will pay more premium than what a 20-year-old healthy person would pay, if you're fully healthy and there's no declaration for you. But would it be very expensive? I wouldn't say so, because if you were to, again, I go back to saying, talking about claims and the amount of money you could spend compared to that, I definitely think, like, why people don't have medical insurance. For us, it's very easy. We live sort of in the central part of the world. Any country from here is sort of one flight. Most of us go for vacations. That cost for us for health insurance for ourselves and our family, like, goes a long way. So I don't. I going back to your question. If you are for a 40-year-old woman, would definitely pay more than a 30-year-old healthy woman if both don't have any declarations. But would it be significantly and too expensive? No. But if you do have certain conditions that you have developed and you have to declare that, then the the premium could add up, but nothing compared to what you could pay out of your own pocket if you were to claim.
Yeah. We have another age related question from R. Bala Subramaniam. He asks, what are the options for health insurance for retirees over 70 years old?
Right. So again, my question, you are able to get the health insurance for retirees as long as you have a valid UAE residency. Again, it comes at a premium. There could be, because at the age of 70, there will be certain health markers which will show up even if there are no critical illnesses. And there is always a premium that could be paid for that, and you could enjoy the health insurance benefit. But yes, your documents in terms of valid UAE residency and all those should be in order.
Another question from Anshita Agarwal. She asks, I'm moving to the UAE sometime this year. Can I get a health insurance plan beforehand from my own country, or do I have to wait to arrive in the UAE and then purchase?
Right. So you have to wait to arrive in the UAE, apply for your residency visa. The first step would be they would give you an e-visa, and with that, that would be the first step that you can apply for health insurance plan. Unfortunately, you cannot get a plan by not being a UAE resident or not being in this country.
I have one question from this. So, if somebody is coming from another country and they have a global health insurance plan in their own country, do they still need to come here and get an insurance plan in the UAE?
Yes. So see, there are certain companies, insurance companies, for example, like Cigna and Bupa, who are present globally in multiple countries. They sometimes offer you the facility to port a policy to this country. So they would port your policy to this country, but the regulation says that your policy has to be a UAE issued regulated policy.
Policy. Okay. Got it. The next question is from Radha Iyer. She asks, would health insurance cover alternate treatments like homeopathy and naturopathy?
Yes, so there are certain insurance plans which cover alternate medicines, treatments like homeopathy and naturopathy. There would be a certain limit defined to it, and because all these treatments are mostly done in specialized clinics and centers, so not a lot of insurance companies have cashless options available in terms of claims. So you would typically be, asked to pay for the procedure, and then claim it as reimbursement.
Okay.
But there are options, and there are more and more options now.
I hope that answers your question, Radha. The next one is by Mosri Das. She's asking, is it better to opt for an out of network provider
Is it better to opt for a
or out of network provider?
out of network provider? So out of network provider basically makes your life difficult, right? Because if I want to visit a hospital or clinic which is not in my network, I cannot make a cashless claim. And if it's a smaller consultation, a smaller treatment, a little skin infection, it's fine because you're able to afford that cost and pay cashless. But if it's a bigger surgery or something major, then you will be asked to kind of, you'll have to pay that money out of your pocket and then get it reimbursed. But you will have to definitely check before you go to the out of network hospital or clinic whether the condition that you're claiming for is covered or not in your insurance plan.
So it essentially makes life more difficult.
Yeah, I
It's
hate paperwork. So I love going somewhere where I don't have to worry about if I leave the hospital and clinic, but to each their own. And there are plans with, now multiple hospitals and clinics here. And UAE is not a geographically very large country, right? So it's fairly easy for us. There are 6, 7 large hospital names, centers, which we typically mostly go to, and you have plans which would cover. So before buying, we would recommend that, typically in your neighborhood where you live or where you work, or if there's any particular hospital that you're more comfortable going to, if that's something you can already tell us, we would be happy to ensure that that's covered in your plan.
okay, great. The next question, Toshita, is from Parikshit Balochi. He's asking, can I upgrade an insurance plan provided by my company personally?
No, so you cannot upgrade the same plan which has been provided by your company because your company has paid that, and that's mostly as part of a group plan.
So he will have to take a separate policy if he
Yeah,
wants
he'll have to
personal.
take a separate policy, and the insurer would be very interested in knowing that why do you want to take a separate policy? Is there something that you know your current insurance doesn't cover? Is there some treatment that you're taking for which has your current policy has exceeded the limit? So all those things.
There's a group insurance related question that we have from Ekta Chadha. She's asking, what is the minimum number of people that is required for a group insurance? Or
So,
is there such
so
thing?
yeah, so group sort of works in two categories. So you have the SME, the smaller groups, which could start from 5 members and above, and then obviously you have the larger groups, which are about 100 to 100 plus members. So it could start from as low as 5 members. When people come to us, especially with smaller groups, we sort of give them both the options, right? Because there are some companies who think that they have 5 employees today, and by the end of the year they'll be 25. But there are some companies who know that they are 5 and they will only be 5 for the next 2 years, right? The nature of business, etc. So
Yeah.
we're able to advise them sort of which plan we should push them to.
Okay. The next question is by Shambhavi Chaudhary. She's asking, is it okay if I stick to only basic health insurance without any add ons?
So, is it okay? Yes, it is okay that you stick to basic health insurance. But again, as the name suggests, it is basic, right? You will only get so much cover. You will only get X number of hospitals, X number of clinics. Could you pay a little more and upgrade to an enhanced plan? 100% yes. And that's what we would recommend.
On a similar note, Manvi Dugar, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, is asking, should I buy a health insurance plan for each family member or should I go for a family health insurance plan?
So again, it depends, Manvi, on how many family members are you. Is it just your husband and wife, husband and yourself? Is it your kids? How many kids? What are the conditions? Any pre-existing conditions any of you have? Are you currently pregnant? Not pregnant? Is your husband insured by the company? So typically, for a healthy family, we would suggest a family care plan that works out a little cheaper and more affordable when it comes to buying for the entire family. However, if there are any declarations, etc., then we may sort of push you in certain different category of plans.
Okay, great. Shivam Varma, and I think you already addressed this, Toshita, but still Shivam is asking, instead of an annual medical insurance, can I get medical insurance for my parents only for 90 days while they're visiting the UAE on a tourist visa?
Right. Thanks, Shivam. This is a very common inquiry question. So in our health insurance page, we typically get a lot of inquiries where customer says, "Oh, but I'm looking for health insurance, but I'm on a tourist visa." So the UAE government says that if you're on a tourist visa, you cannot buy a UAE health insurance plan. You can, before coming into the country, you can buy a UAE travel insurance plan, which is an inbound travel insurance plan, which is which could cost you about less than 100 dirhams, and it would cover your emergency medical expenses, which does not cover any pre-existing. So that's a completely different category. So to answer your question straight, no, it won't be allowed to buy medical insurance for your parents if they're on a visit visa and they're only here for 90 days. You have to have a UAE residency.
I hope that answers your question, Shivam. The next one is by Rohit Sharma. Will insurance coverage be affected because of the expiry of anyone's Emirates ID?
Yes. So, see, typically your insurance, your Emirates ID proves that you are, there's a valid residency at the back of it and your paperwork is done and you have a valid visa. If your Emirates ID is expired, your insurance policy is linked to your Emirates ID when you go to claim. So, the next time you go to claim and Emirates ID is expired, that insurance policy may no longer show up, right? So, you will be required to do your visa renewal process and get your Emirates ID, because Emirates ID is also issued as per the visa expiry date. So that process will have to be done again.
I have a question off of this. So, if your Emirates ID expires, does that affect the continuity of your policy as well? Or, like, do you have a grace period where you can, like, renew and then the continuity is not affected?
Right. So you're typically you would, within if your Emirates expiry date is today, that also means that your visa is expired, and you would have started the visa renewal process at least 2 to 3 weeks before that. Most of the people would have it done at least a month before that, and that's one of the reasons why the insurance companies give you like a 1 month grace period after the 12th month, um,
Okay,
just so that you're able to complete all your paperwork.
got it. The next question is from Swati. She's asking, are newborns covered under health insurance plans?
Right. So that's also a great part about UAE health insurance. So for under the mother's policy, the newborn is covered default for 30 days
Okay.
of after being born. And then within those 30 days, you sort of, complete the paperwork of getting the passport, etc. And then you can apply for his insurance, his or her insurance.
Okay. So, like babies as young as 1 month old can also get health insurance. The next question is from Nupur. She is asking, is there any benefit of choosing international companies for health insurance over local ones?
Right. So you have certain international companies which offer certain plans which come under the IPMI category, which basically I'll just explain you what it means in terms of benefit difference, right? So today, let's say I buy a regional plan in UAE that covers me in this country, and I could go to a hospital or clinic within my network and do everything cashless, make cashless claims. Now, typically, what um, the international or global brands would do is they would also allow you to claim in any other country within their network, and their networks are pretty large because of how they are operating in all those countries. So tomorrow I may develop a, let's say, a condition, and I think, oh, the best doctor for this condition is in Germany, and I may want to go there for the treatment. So, and if it's covered as part of my policy terms, I could be able to get a cashless treatment there. But obviously the policy framework would still apply here as to what is covered, what is not covered, etc., the annual limits. And as I mentioned earlier, that they could also give you an option when you move back to your home country to port the policy there.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Nupur. And with that, Toshita, I think we should come to a close because we have had a wonderful session. You answered some very, very important questions about health insurance. Thank you for that. Thank you for taking out the time. For anybody who still has any queries, you can log on to policybazaar.ae and speak or consult with an expert to have any of your queries resolved. We will be back very soon with another webinar. Till then, take care of your health, and have a good night. Thanks, Toshita. Thanks for
Thanks,
joining.
Aditi. Bye bye.
Bye. Good night.